Let's talk about a rule that seems to break all the others. That super strict, unmovable deadline. You know the one. It can feel totally unfair, right? But it turns out there's some powerful hidden logic inside. I mean, think about it. You've probably had that one professor who's normally super understanding, always willing to work with you, but then, for one specific project, bam, they draw a hard line in the sand. No extensions, no excuses. What is going on there?
So let's dive right into what I'm calling the deadline dilemma. We're going to look at that exact moment when a professor's usual flexibility just vanishes and it's replaced by a final, absolute deadline. Okay, so on the left, you see the normal way this instructor, Rob Power, does things. It's all about flexibility because the main goal is for you to actually master the material. But on the right, for this one project, he totally flips the script. No extensions, no exceptions. And that jarring difference, well, that's the whole point. And that leads us to the big reveal. Section 2, the real-world classroom. Because the secret here is that this project isn't just a project. It's actually a super carefully designed simulation of what it's like in a real job.
The students are told point blank to treat this whole thing not like homework, but like a real-world contract. And that simple change in framing, it changes everything. All of a sudden, it's not about your grade. It's about professional responsibility, hitting timelines, and delivering for a client. And look, this is no simple one-and-done assignment. Just look at this workflow. It's a pretty complex project with 8 different milestones, starting with the proposal and going all the way to the final report. And the key thing here is that every single step builds on the one before it. So here's the crucial point. Your work doesn't just exist in a bubble. In a simulation like this, missing a deadline isn't just your problem. It affects everybody. Your collaborators, they're stuck. They can't move forward. Your peers are literally just sitting there waiting for your feedback. And the pretend students, they don't get their course on launch day. These people are your stakeholders. All of this interconnected stuff leads to what we've got to call the domino effect. And this is where it gets really interesting because we can actually see the ripple effect of just one person being late. All right, first, 2 quick terms you need to know so the next charts make sense. Dependencies are just tasks that can't start until another one is finished. Simple enough. And lead time? That's your wiggle room. It's that little bit of a buffer you have before your delay starts messing things up for the next person. Okay, here it is. This is the project laid out in what's called a Gantt chart. And what you're seeing here is the perfect plan. Everything's done on time, one task flows smoothly into the next. You see how each phase has its own chunk of time? This is the absolute best case scenario. But life isn't always perfect, right? So what happens if things aren't perfect? What if a student takes just a little bit of extra time on those first couple of steps? Let's see what happens. Okay, check this out. On the left is that perfect plan we just saw, but on the right, notice what happens when there's just a small delay early on. See how that buffer, that lead time, just gets eaten up? By the time you get to the actual module development phase, your time has been cut in half. The instructor calls it an unreasonable individual time crunch. A tiny extension early on creates a huge crisis for you later. And this shows what happens when a collaborative step is late. It's even crazier. If one person is late with their peer feedback, look what happens to the final revisions phase for everyone else. The entire team's time to revise their work is slashed from a full week down to half a week. One person's delay just created a crisis for the entire group right before the finish line. So what's the big takeaway here? This brings us to our final section, process over product. Because the real lesson here isn't about turning in a perfect final project. It's about something much bigger. And the instructor, Rob Power, he just nails it with this quote. The process is as important, if not more so, than the final product. The skills you learn by navigating these messy, interconnected timelines, that's the real prize. So the real goals of this whole no exceptions rule, they suddenly become crystal clear. It's about really understanding the whole design process from start to finish. It's about learning how to communicate and collaborate when the pressure is on. It's about respecting the fact that other people are depending on you. And ultimately, it's about developing real-world project management skills. And that leaves us with one final question to think about. And it's one that's worth asking yourself, whether you're in school or you're a professional out in the world. What dominoes are depending on you right now? Who's waiting for your piece of the puzzle so they can even start theirs? Because understanding that is the hidden logic of the strict deadline.